We're here with Associate Head Coach Adam Pennington. Coach, can you talk a little bit about what impressed you at the TCU Invitational over the weekend?
I was impressed with the whole team. I think the whole team really had a pretty good meet as far as us just being healthy throughout the meet and kind of staying injury free. I think that was a plus. Battling a few kids today that's actually probably has more soreness and injuries, but I was impressed. The whole team, all the way from the jumps, the throws. I mean, I thought we put together a pretty quality meet, and maybe we were a little step ahead of some other teams having a meet or so before, but overall I thought there was some pretty big competition with a few Big 12 schools there, and I think head to head, I think we performed about as good as you can against some of those bigger Power 5 schools, so I was impressed.
Your Spurs have put up some quality tops so far, led by junior Amir James, who ranks first in the nation in the 200 with his time of 20:56, and Michael Larkins ranks third nationally in the 100 with the time of 10:26. What does that say about your team going forward?
Those guys are experienced guys, even though they're a sophomore and junior, and they're both experienced guys. They've been there, they've been under that pressure. They just came back from a USA championship where they've seen them type of caliber athletes. So I don't think something, as far as Power 5 schools or being against competition like that phases these guys. Both All-Americans, so I don't think that was anything that's going to stop them. As far as performances this early on in the season to be that good, I'm impressed, but at the same time I'm not surprised because I know they're capable of doing, and I think they'll only run faster. We've yet to get a tailwind in the 100, so once we get that, I think there will be some pretty big times drop from both of those guys. It's fun to watch them keep swapping places in these events because they're competitive, and they're both love the sport so much. So I'm happy for those guys. Those guys work pretty hard, and I think they're deserving of everything that they do, and they're putting some recognition out there. I've had a lot of coaches contact me and ask some things about those guys and some other things. So they've actually been noticed by some other schools and other coaches. They're impressive to go out there and be able to run with a few All-Americans and end up beating them from bigger schools. I was happy.
And got to ask about DeShaylin Jones, sets the school record in the 200. Talk about it.
It's funny, right before she actually ran the 200, she told me she was going to run 22 seconds in the 200. I joked and said I'd like to see a 23, and she sure came close.
Yeah.
She said, I told you I was going to run it. I said, you didn't quite run it. But she was also out in front, alone. She wasn't really having to press. She was a little relaxed. Of course, TCU, some Baylor kids in that heat. Natasha Jackson, I thought, ran a pretty well race. But for her to run 23, I think maybe 12 or so, 23-1, somewhere in that range, wow, that's impressive for the school record to be 23:63 before that. That's pretty impressive, and I felt like half of her race was into an ongoing win. So she'll run fast. She's gonna hopefully break that 23-second barrier, and her time was actually USA outdoor qualifying mark. So she's actually, and that outdoors is a lot bigger thing than indoors, and so is Amir James in the 200. So I'm impressed with both of those guys, what they've done, and up until this point, and we can keep DeShaylin healthy. There will be some pretty special things happening in the future for her. But I'm impressed with her. She wasn't even recruited at a high school. We're the only school that really, I think, even showed interest in her. And Coach Chad did a great job recruiting her and bringing her in. And 26-second 200-meter runner at a high school, and now she's running right on 22s. I don't know how many girls ever do that. So she's one of a kind. She definitely is. And you look at her, you don't really see that build that you see with most of these professional runners and high talented kids, but she has it in her. So she's going to keep progressing. I think she'll open up in the 400 this week. We'll leave the 200 alone for a week or so, let her kind of recover, but she'll be good to go.
And talk about how your teams are looking ahead to conference and how they're preparing.
We're on perfect track. One thing that we don't want to do is burn these kids out. So we'll step back a little bit. We'll, get a race here and there. Maybe a 400 this week, next week. We won't load up a whole lot of races. We'll keep the relays going, try to keep the exchanges coming. But overall, we don't want to burn these kids out. We know it's a long season. I prepare, not just to go out and compete well at conference, but my goal is to get these guys onto those USAs and national championships and regional qualifiers. So some of these kids are a little bit more long season than some of these, other kids. So we've got to take different approaches with kids like DeShaylin Jones and Amir James. So we'll back off of some of these guys a little bit, but overall, heading into conference, man, we've got one of the best groups in the country. I think they're pretty good. So,
thank you very much.